goodness knows what. I think this might be the 6th in our series of 8 teachings on, well, with the title From Poison to Nectar, about the 5 Buddha families. So as you know, we always take this very, very special, needed moment of focus on our motivation. I love the word motivation. It's got motor in it, motive, driving force. It's like when you've got, I went out early this morning to turn on the central heating. It was about 5 o'clock, very dark. But I could hear somewhere a motorcyclist enjoying the empty roads, absolutely revving the machine ridiculously. So I was like this. You could feel somebody enjoying the power of the sort of the thrust and sitting astride this huge motor, motivating force, driving force. It's like the rocket that takes these billionaires up into space. So as we go up into space for the next hour, the main rocket driving us should be a beautiful love for all our fellow beings, all of them, including those who aren't very popular at the moment and who are in the news, and people doing horrible things to each other. It's always been like that. That's life, it's samsara. But our love extends to all of them, our past, best friends and parents, and they'll all be Buddhas when the illusion ends. So feeling loving care for all of them, wonderful joy that our own life is fruitful and we have Dharma, and not just any Dharma, the fine flower of Dharma in the Vajrayana teachings of the 5 enlightened families, the 5 aspects of total enlightenment. So anyway, let's do our prayers which embody and give voice to this pure motivation. Sonje chodon soje chonamla jancho badu dane chapsanche dage jinso jipe sunamji rola penchera sanje chuparashu samchen tamche dewa dang dewe jodang dempare joche dongal dang dongal ji jodang tralware joche dongal me pen dewa dampa dang men tralware joche Yerin chadan netang tralwe tanyom chempola ne para jorachi. Ande antan shame shamawati shameta shatru am kurimam kurimarajite karota ke orite jowati Olo yane beshodane male malapana ye kukure kaka grase krasana o muki paramuki amuki shame tawane sawa graha bandanane negri ta sawa bava pravadina vimukta marapasha savita buddha mudra nugatita savamare butsarita parishuddhi Bega Shantu Savamara Kamanye. Halen Sawe Lama Rinpoche Dagye Chewara Pende Denshula Kadrin Chempo Gone Jizonte Kuson Tujeng Hadrup Saldu Sol. So, as you know in these teachings, because we've had quite a few now, I am on purpose repeating myself going back because I think there are some vital things to implant, to transmit. And so, as Karmapa was saying yesterday in his teaching, practice is 24 hours a day. We are creatures of habit. And so the Dharma needs to be kind of hammered in again and again until it makes a new habit, which is more powerful than the old habits. And just listening once and going, I understand, is not good enough. Won't really help us enough, is what I mean. So we are talking about these 5 Buddha families, which we are dispersing in the directions. And the directions are related to us, our own physical body that we're living in right now. So some bits, like our eyes, are in the front. So we do have a front and a back. We don't have eyes all the way around and ears all the way around. We're a bit particular. So in front of us is always east. Behind us is always west. To our right is always the south. And to our left is always the north. And the zenith, well, that stays the same, always above us. This is the foundation of Vajrayana Mandala, related to yoga, related to our body. Excuse me, I need to drink. So Buddha mind is Buddha mind. When we go deep into the philosophy, we can't even say it's one. We can say it's not two, it's non-dual. You might know the Sanskrit term Advaita, beyond duality. But if you say one as an idea gets you into trouble. So we're not going there. That's the philosopher's thing. It's not two, but it's not one either. But in everyday talk, from where we are as human beings, considering enlightenment, which we haven't really got much experience of, then we can say Buddha is mind. There aren't 2 different Buddhas. There is Buddha mind that manifests itself in many different facets. It's like, I've got one here. How about this? If you can see it. If you can see it. A diamond. Now, this is a very strange diamond, actually. It's got black inside it. This is the black oil of prehistoric rainforests. It's called a jicama diamond. So you've got a bit of what once was a forest, which has remained oil. But anyway, just an example. A diamond, one diamond, we're talking about one and non-dual. A diamond, when you turn it in the light, can have many, many facets. This one's not a diamond, it's a crystal. If it was a diamond, I'd be a very, very rich Ken. But you know, if you turn a diamond, and this one, the camera doesn't compensate, there's lots of rainbows in it. Whichever way you turn it, it looks different colors, different points of light. You take it out in the sun, you get dazzling green point, then you turn it a blue point, a red point. So all the different Buddhas that we come across in Buddhism and in Vajrayana, blue ones, green ones, red ones, white ones, ones with lots of arms, ones with no arms. All of these are the way that this one changeless, timeless mind can manifest, depending where we are relatively. So here, in this course, we're considering the 5 main manifestations of this one enlightened mind. The main point of this course is to lead our awareness a little bit closer to the 5 Buddha wisdoms. Although it's sort of titled 5 families, it's the wisdom, 5 key wisdoms. Now, when we really get to know them, they are 5 facets of one wisdom. It can't change. It's timeless. Something that can't change and is timeless. Okay, we hear the words. Think about it. It can't be, if it can't change, it can't be this wisdom today and that wisdom tomorrow. It doesn't change. It doesn't change. So then that wisdom has everything. Every aspect of wisdom, always been there. But in terms of our Dharma journey to enlightenment and everyone else's Dharma journey, they go through a changing landscape of experience where this bit's tasted, this bit's tasted, and so on. So we're looking at the 5 manifestations. They're always there. More than that, they are our real identity. It's what we really are, who we really are. That takes some digesting at first. But the whole point of this course is to help us gain confidence that we are the wonder of this Buddha wisdom with its 5 manifestations. And we're considering why we can't just, if that's what we really are, why can't we experience it now? It's because its power, its beauty, all of its qualities of this wisdom, as 5 main aspects of wisdom, is blocked off. Blocked off mainly by what we call ego, our thick habits of a story of me, and a story of me which is characterized and perpetuated by 5 key poisonous habits. So we've been looking at those. We've probably all got the 5 poisonous habits. We've seen them: desire, hostility, ignorance, pride, jealousy. But some of them are stronger in some of us. And then because they characterize us, you might be a very jealous person, or you might be a very craving person. So it doesn't mean you've only got that one, but that one dominates. And so we say, that person, because they're going to need to deal with that, to face it, to work through it, to dissolve it. We say that person, for instance, if they do have a lot of jealousy, then we say, they belong to the karma family, this side. So we're starting to build this personal mandala. Great if you can do it. That's my hope for this course. You can start to do that. You become a Dharma tortoise. There's it's not that funny, but it's one of these stories of the tortoise and the hare, tortoise and the rabbit. And the tortoise says to the rabbit, "Race you home." And the rabbit says, "Okay." And then the tortoise just goes, whoop, and pulls in its legs and pulls in its head. And it's one. So we carry our home with us. Wherever you go, you've got Akshobhya Buddha, blue right there in front of you. You've got Ratnasambhava, golden to your right. You've got Buddha Amitabha, he's got your back. And Buddha Amoghasiddhi, green, is to your left. And then above us, we have whichever Buddha we have as the Lord of the family, Vairochana, or whichever one it is. So we're cultivating an awareness that they're all there. Now, sometimes when we do a practice, a Guru Rinpoche practice, or Tara practice, then our teachers tell us again and again, Tara is with you every moment. Whether you can see and experience the presence of Tara or not, Tara is always there. Guru Rinpoche is always there. Often there's a Tibetan saying, Guru Rinpoche is always at your doorstep. So when we do one practice, then we are told that because it's very helpful for us. It's not as though the Guru is always there when you're being a good boy or good girl and sitting on your cushion and then doing something with your mind and your imagination, and all of a sudden, there's a little bit of Guru Rinpoche. Guru Rinpoche is always there. And we see that very vividly, and I hope you get the chance to learn the story of a Sangha who gave us all the Buddha nature teachings and his own experience of Maitreya Buddha, where he realizes after 12 years of retreat, you've always been there. So anyway, they're always there. And then I made this funny little drawing that I don't think I sent it out as an attachment, but at the beginning of the course, how we are there, there, and these Buddhas are in the four directions and above us, but we're in this walled house of our mind poisons. So it's like the landscape that's beyond the walls of the room you're sitting in now. You can only see the walls, but beyond those walls, there's always been the landscape. So this is what we're looking at. Now, when we look at these families and the characteristics of the worldly mind that makes you belong to these families, like you're a jealous person or you're a very proud person. And I've mentioned before, what we shouldn't do is think that these teachings are there to characterize humanity, so that we can go around and say, you're a Padma family, you're this family. That's ego. That's the problem. They are the walls. These teachings are not here to help us reinforce the walls. Now, the reason I'm saying that is there's not a lot of stuff available for you to learn about these families. In, I think it's Journey Without a Goal, Trungpa Rinpoche writes about them. It's quite colorful writing. In her teachings as a modern Western Lama, Lama Sulti Malione, she does quite a lot of work with Dakini visualizations. And then I don't think it's so much in a book, but in her audio teachings that you can get, then she also characterizes these families. Now, both these authors, Trungpa Rinpoche and Lama Sulti Malione, they, how can you say, in order to get the message across, they give us vivid caricatures of the person of each family. Okay, that's great. It gives you kind of a whiff. It gives you a taste of what we're talking about. But we're 8 billion people on this planet. So that's over 1 billion people, let's say, who belong to each family. When you read the caricature, you haven't got 1 billion people. So let's just take, for example, what I'm trying to convey. We ended last time we met on the Padma family, Lotus family. So in the caricature, the Lotus family person is a seducer. So we heard last time, the ego, the personality trait which is strongest, is you need to be in other people's lives. You need to be the light of somebody else's lives. You delight in being loved by other people for who you are. So the way that's characterized to give us this feeling of how you need, therefore, to make yourself attractive to other people. So, and then Lama Sultim's teachings, they are very often mainly addressed to women. So she says, you go out to the party, you put on sexy underwear, you end up getting a bit drunk, and you wake up in bed the next morning to discover who you went to bed with. And then you realize that although something happened and you really meant somebody to something last night, now you wonder what the hell's going on, and it wasn't that satisfying. So I don't think that a fifth of humanity, over 1 billion people, are putting on sexy underwear and waking up in bed with a stranger tomorrow morning. So although it gives us the flavor of you need to make yourself attractive, you think you have this feeling of need. You need that to be worthy. So if it's that, or if it's in Trungpa Rinpoche's writing, we must understand they're trying to give us a taste. But here we're looking at something that's in everybody. All the people who live in your street, they have ego. They have an illusion of who I am, and these are characterized. So we've seen, when we looked at the Ratna family, how it is values. Let's use a bit of language to help us remember. You value your values. It's not so much what you have, that's the Ratna family and so on. It's, this is right. That's wrong. This is the way to do it. That's not the way to. These are bad people. These are good people. I'm on the right side. They're on the wrong side. There is this feeling of hostility and criticism. And then sometimes through the criticism, ill will. These days, with the current news, the current war, there's always been wars. There still are many other wars than the Russian-Ukraine war happening right now. Nevertheless, there are a lot of people in the world wishing ill on other human beings. It's like the Tibetans who didn't follow their Buddhist principles, who were dancing with joy when Mao Zedong died. Not feeling compassion, not doing prayers, and so on. So anyway, we saw with the Vajra family a characteristic of hostility and where you value your values. And then we went on to the south, to our right, where behind it all we've got this golden Buddha Ratna Sambhava, but the wall that's blocking us from that is our involvement, our identifying ourselves with what we have. Possessions, possessiveness, complacency, a God realm type of mentality where you can look around at what you have. It doesn't need to be material stuff. It can also be your own qualities of learning or skills. But we identify with what we have. That's the blockage. And then we came to the Padma family to the west. And I think that's more or less where we finished last time. And we saw that there, our main identity is not with our values or what we have, it's who we are. And so I need to do a bit more about that. Charm is one word. Magic charm makes something happen. So it's about being charming. We want to make ourselves attractive in others' eyes. Charm. Need. There's a lot, this Western direction behind us is very much to do with need. So what does that mean? Now if we apply this in moment by moment. For instance, when we're in the south, the Ratna family, in a moment when we find ourselves wallowing in our stuff. Okay, like here you were asking, when we were saying hello, you were asking about my garden here and the house. So when I'm kind of sitting like Lord of the universe in my garden and looking at the trees and the bushes and things like this, when I catch myself wallowing, then, and identifying with it, if that were the case, or if in this moment I catch myself thinking, you're doing a pretty good job of this talk because you're saying the right things, and I'm sure they never heard this before, and this might get, this kind of thing, wallowing in my knowledge or experience that I can share, then we realize that that's a blockage. And then we saw with the South, with the identifying with your wealth that you got through your past karma, your wealth of possessions of knowledge. We know that they are a result of karma, they're impermanent, and they will change. And then we go beyond that. We jump, we go through that wall. As soon as you find yourself being possessive, identifying with possessions, then you cut through in that instant. And beyond that, we find the wisdom of equanimity. So what? You got a Lamborghini. Chakravartin's got a flying saucer in the stories. Your Lamborghini is peanuts compared to a Chakravartin's flying saucers, and then so on and so on. But beyond all of that, the equanimity. It's beautiful. If you're Buddha, you've got everything. You don't need a blooming Lamborghini to justify your worthiness or your existence. Everything. Therefore, there's equanimity. And then we came to the Padma family. When you find yourself identifying with the glow of your personality, your charm, and even locally, it doesn't mean to be you're a star and charming and the TV cameras come and they want to capture a moment of you. It just means you're a star for your children, for your grandchildren. It means that you identify with who you are through your personality and your interactivity. So when we catch ourselves doing that, it's not bad. We're not here to blame and condemn everything, but we realize how that limits us and how it makes us vulnerable. Because whenever we identify with these worldly things, they're fragile, they're beyond our control, they're part of karma, they come, they go. If we identify too much, we are very vulnerable. Life can take away anything. Our possessions, our values, they can change overnight. And then our own charisma, our own attraction, the love we get back from our fellow beings is a nice thing. What's the poison, what is the wall that we set up, is getting involved with that, relying on it for our happiness. It won't work. It won't work. The more we cling, because this Western direction behind us is very much about clinging. So then we, as practicing Buddhists, especially Vajrayana Buddhists, as soon as we recognize it, we cut through. When you find yourself being charming, and so on, seductive, then we cut through, and then we reach Amitabha's wisdom, which is the discerning wisdom. So let's explore that a bit. How can you say? Let's cheat and explore it for what it isn't. But let's explore it in a way that will give us a bridge that will help us through meditation, eventually get to what it really is and what Amitabha really embodies. But from our relative point of view, we can understand discerning wisdom like this. Now with the Padma family to the west behind us, right? I'm jumping on purpose. I'm not doing it to confuse you or because I got my notes mixed up in front of me. We need this flexibility, north, south, east, west, zenith. This poison, that poison, this quality, that quality. Now we're with Padma family. So this is very much to do with our five senses and the five senses. It's about wanting to be loved and respected and appreciated by others. So then how do we use the five senses? Seeing. We ourselves, because we are needy, there's a neediness in this Padma family. We need to see nice things. We know about nice things to see. And so we can make ourselves nice to see. Very. Put on nice clothes and smile. Smile. Trungpa Rinpoche, in his caricature, he says, it's a very, very touching. I don't want to go there too much because this might be painful for some people. But he said, you want people to love you. So you're always nice. You're always kind. He says, even if you hurt me badly, it's okay. I'll forgive you. I'll love you. Now, there's a lot of abuse these days. People have suffered sometimes horrible abuse. And in a process of abuse, and especially at a young age, there's a lot of confusion. And it's people, how can you say, put up with abuse, or behind the abuse is a need for the love of somebody else, a need for the presence. It gets incredibly complicated. If any of you have been through this or know people who've been through this, and it's terrible and it's horrible. So he mentions that just to help us show a state of mind where we're willing to put up with a lot in order to be loved by somebody else or to be generally thought of as nice. So let's come back to the more simple stuff. Okay, five senses, the eyes. You want to look good. You want to make your home a place where people want to come. An attractive home, an attractive garden, so that people like to come to your place. Even, ideally, they prefer to come to your place rather than anybody else's. So nicely decorated. The feng shui is so good that they feel right there and everything's in the right place and so on and so on. And then, so the five senses, hearing. You are needy. You like to hear, well, basically you like to hear other people's kind words about you, but also you like to hear nice music, nice sounds. You want to hear whatever is a nice sound for you. But more than that, you want to be playing the music that people want to hear, to be able to pass on the link for a nice recording of this, and then you want your hi-fi to be so wonderful that everyone will like it. So we can carry on. Taste food. You want to be a good cook. You want people to love your food. You'll cook for them. You'll make them nice stuff. So let's not spend too much time going all through the senses and all the dimensions. I want you to think about these things. You to tease out the feeling of how we, in general, we all do this, use sensorial stuff to make ourselves and our lives more attractive to others. So, how can you say that's the persona, using stuff so that your needs are satisfied and that we become, we, by extension, us, our house, our property, and so on, becomes attractive to other people. Now, the discerning wisdom emerges out of that on a relative level. You see, you've learned. What sense didn't we do? Smell. You know the very best incenses, the very best furniture polish to use so that your house smells of beeswax when they come in, or whatever it is. In order to be attractive, to make your house attractive, and to keep that going, then we need to learn about quality. So now that knowledge of quality is being channeled not towards our ego, making ourselves more attractive. It becomes, bit by bit, an enlightened quality where how can this, which is better than that, be used to help people? The whole focus is not a tense, a desperate need for me to be loved. It becomes how, because we really love other people, how can we use the resources of life best? Because we have some knowledge of their qualities. How can we use those resources best? So we get, it's quite famous, it's called the 84,000 dharmas, the 84,000 key qualities in the whole of existence, being able to discern this one from that one. And our human knowledge is very, very much based on this. When you get people with, in human terms, knowledge, then if they're a doctor, they know all about the organs, they know about the diseases. If they're a specialist doctor, they go deeper into the language, deeper into the definitions of, yes, you've got migraines, but there are so many types of migraines. Your type of migraine forms part of these. It's not cluster headaches, it's not this, it's a migraine. It comes from this part of the brain. And you get specialized knowledge. Botanists are amazing for how they can name things and distinguish, this plant, or people can distinguish this butterfly from that one. The deeper we get into knowledge, subatomic particles, whatever it is, then the more powerful we are. Because we know the use of things. How did we get such knowledge of DNA, of genetics, of atomic power, and so on? It's through this clear discernment of one thing from another. It's no longer just atoms. There are atomic particles, subatomic particles. There are all types of bosons and all kinds of things. The more we know, the more powerful we get. So here, rather than knowing how to perfume ourselves, decorate our house, and so on, to become more attractive and to reinforce our own sense of value and love through other people's appreciation, here we use the knowledge, the discerning awareness to help others. Now, like I said, we're going to cheat. That is discerning awareness, but it's not the Buddha's discerning awareness. When you're Buddha, the changeless mind that has all the wisdom, then spontaneously you know what will help this person in this moment. It just happens automatically. But on the way to that, our refined knowledge of the qualities and values of each thing as opposed to other things, this is how we develop as a bodhisattva. So if we find ourselves trying to be charming, trying to be attractive in the eyes of others, when we feel how we need that, we feel our neediness, we feel the magnetic power that's so typical of the Padma family, then we just stop in the moment, we cut through it, and we think of Buddha Amitabha and Buddha Amitabha's discerning primordial wisdom that knows all things throughout the whole of time and space, and all beings throughout the whole of time and space for what they are. Some of our Buddhas, like Akshobhya and Ratnasambhava and so on, we have information about in English, but others not so much. There isn't that much literature on Buddha Ratnasambhava, except to say he's one of the 5 Dhyana Buddhas. Buddha Amitabha, we have quite a bit of information about, and mainly in the longer and the shorter Amitayus Sutra, and the story of the Bodhisattva who became Amitabha Buddha, and the Bodhisattva who realized a big problem. I hope I'm not going too fast. I seem to be rabbiting on a lot. A problem. Let's call it the Pure Land problem. Okay. So those who have beautiful, clear minds, free of the mind poisons, because their mind is clear, they experience purity. In so many different ways that we find in the Mahayana scriptures, descriptions of this pure land, that pure land. Great, great. But in order to get to a state of existential purity, normally it would take, normally on the Bodhisattva path, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of lifetimes before you even get the experience. And so Bodhisattva, who became Amitabha Buddha, thought, if only there was some way of getting people to a Pure Land type experience quickly, they would realize that this is what it's all about, that the purity of mind is what every life on whichever world it is about. And then they would practice so happily because they have the vision, they've had the glimpse of the truth of everything. And so he made extensive prayers again and again, that as he developed as a bodhisattva, he would be able to make a mind space where he could bring in people, mainly after they died, when their mind was released from their body, if they put together enough causes. So when we do the Amitabha teachings with 4 causes for rebirth in the Pure Land of Amitabha, so he makes the Pure Land the people who normally wouldn't have enough karma to experience a Pure Land can experience, and from there it becomes an amazing stepping stone to better things. I like to give you an example just from my own experience. When I went to India in 1970, I went there driving overland, and I came back mainly hitchhiking, which was quite a story in itself. I did Delhi, London on $20, and it took me a few weeks. But anyway, mainly on the out journey, but also coming back and talking with people. What there was at the time was Mercedes-Benz, the motor car company, had customers in Sri Lanka. So rather than pay their own people to drive a car out to Sri Lanka, they would find trustworthy people who were looking to go to Sri Lanka and who'd drive the car there for them. So these people who, because they were looking for that, they weren't the sort of people who could buy themselves a Mercedes-Benz, but they had petrol paid, a brand new Mercedes-Benz to drive from Germany to Sri Lanka. Or it's like when I was hitchhiking. I was very hungry. I was sleeping by the roadside for a couple of weeks. Halfway through, I couldn't afford food anymore. But somebody would stop with a car that I couldn't afford, and they'd take me from one country to the next. So like this, Amitabha wanted to make, through his own power, his own wealth of punya, a mind space where he could hold people who'd connected with him long enough for them to taste truth, to completely change their journey. So if we get the chance, we try to not only read about Amitabha Buddha and this whole what is Detachment story, but we try to understand that wonderful mind of Amitabha, with its discerning knowledge, knows what each person is dreaming of. So Detachment is like this place where your dreams come true, but at the same time they're coming true, there's something so much more vivid, which is the presence of Amitabha that you experience, and it makes you long to become Buddha. So anyway, as we find ourselves being attractive, being seductive, being magnetic, then rather than just stopping and examining the psychology of that why, and examining the impermanence of it, and where it's led us in the past, and where it might lead us in the future, we just cut through Vajrayana, and we try to feel Amitabha's discerning primordial awareness. So as I said, I think last week, about the Padma family, then, and all of the families, if we're on a Dharma path, we want this Dharma path to be quick. We can't have our cake and eat it. We can't keep samsara and at the same time get nirvana, because nirvana, the actual word, means no more samsara. It's really like the cake and the eat it. The more you eat it, the less cake there is. So you cannot have Dharma progress and still keep your samsara. And Dharma will sometimes be quite vivid. So we can expect with the Vajra family, we're back there now in the East in front of us, for our fixed ideas that make us feel hostile about other people and make us feel our rightness, for them to be challenged, and circumstances to rub our fixed ideas in our face so that we realize just how limited and wrong we were. If we go now to the south, Ratna Sambhava Ratna family, where we're identifying ourselves with our possessions, then we must expect perhaps our fortune to change. Or if that doesn't happen, you keep the same possessions, you keep the same possession of your knowledge and your skills, but you find that there's no more juice in it. You're not getting the same satisfaction. You don't really care so much. When it comes to now the West, to the Padma family, and our own key need, which isn't possessions and it's not values, ideas, It's our own charm, our own magnetism. Ideally, if you're in the Padma family, you want to be the star of the show, the very welcome person, and so on. So we must expect to lose our charm, to lose our beauty, to use our power of speech to fascinate people, and whatever it is. And so if you're a Dharma person, then, as I said before, you've got this strange, it's almost like masochistic joy, because you are happy as you see your samsara crumble. So there's another aspect to this Padma family. In fact, it applies to all the families, but I'd like to talk about it here. And it is, I think some people call it cosmic loneliness. If we're in the Ratna family, then your ideas count. It doesn't matter if nobody loves you. Your ideas and your values count. If you're the last person in the world, no, this is right and that's wrong. Even if the whole army, they say everyone in the British Army is out of step except for you, it doesn't matter. They're all out of step. They're all wrong. I'm right. Doesn't matter if nobody loves you. You're right. With the Ratna family, you've got your stuff. You've got your karmic situation, your wealth. You're okay. You're not particularly looking to be loved because of it. You feel good because of it. You feel good because you're a university professor, or you're the best woodworker on the block. You have a skill, and so on. But here in the Padma family, you need people to feel okay. You need to be the somebody in somebody else's life. So if Dharma works, it has to challenge that. Maybe people don't care about you so much. You're disposable. People don't need you anymore. Now, if you're really Dharma-minded, then you think, great, the practice is working. And you'd be looking at your own feelings as it hurts when people don't need you so much. Or somebody who really needed you, they've turned their attention to somebody else, somebody who loved you. And now they've fallen in love with somebody else. Or your children, they grow up and they don't need you so much and they're off into their own stuff. Or you used to be so good in the office, but now you can't handle the computers and the younger generation like this. Whatever it is, people don't need you. So this topic of cosmic loneliness is a really pertinent thing for us on the Bodhisattva path. We have to be okay without anybody. It's why yogis go to retreat, just to experience what it's like not interacting with others. Nobody needs you. One of Milarepa's songs, and it's quite interesting when some of us are very, very indebted to Khenpo Sutim Jamso for bringing the Dharma, one of the main early people bringing Dharma to the West. So actually, when he came west, I think I was his first student. Spent a long time with him. And I think I was one of the first people here he got to sing Milarepa songs back in 1977. So we were traveling with the 16th Karmapa, and generally Khenpo was the one giving the teachings. The Karmapa didn't give teachings, he gave ceremonies, refuge, bodhicitta, empowerments. Khenpo La did the teachings, and Karmapa asked him to teach. And so his very first public teaching was a Milarepa song, And we're all a bit surprised because of all the different Milarepa songs. He picked Milarepa's song about dying, and about if I die, then I want to die alone, in a cave. I don't want to be a bother to anybody. Nobody will need to burn my body, bury my body. Nobody will need to shed a tear. And I'd be happiest of all if I can just die alone, meditating in a cave. It's a very, very powerful song. And so anyway, cosmic loneliness. Can we hack that? Can we do it? And it will take time. It might take lifetimes, but it's where we're going. Now, in fact, you're not alone. I wanted to speak French. Bien au contraire. Really, you are not alone. From the very beginning, we take refuge. We have the most wonderful companions in all the Buddhas, in the Bodhisattvas, in all the wonderful lamas of our lineage. There are so many beautiful and pure minds there for us. But somehow we have to cross a bridge, and it won't be until we've let go of our clinging to the things and the people of this life that we'll really experience this divine community of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. And then they'll become very, very real. So we can believe in them when we take refuge. We can more than believe, we can sort of feel something. But gradually our path will be one of letting go of a worldly need for people and circumstances and becoming forever part of all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas who freed their mind. They're all there in the most wonderful way. And in particular, Buddha Amitabha, very specially. So I thought I'd just mention that. This whole course is to give you subject matter for reflection. So I hope you'll reflect on that too, your own need to be, your own need for people, your own need for lovers, family, appreciation from your workmates, to be in the eyes of others. So I haven't given a lot of time so far in this course to our 5 verses from Patrul Rinpoche, although I think I did with the previous 2 families, Vajra family and Padma family, say something. So now let me go there for the Padma family. He talks about desire and attachment. So he says, don't follow your desire and attachment. When it comes up, remember what we're doing is, as it comes up, we don't reject it. We don't say desire's wrong, attachment's wrong. We look directly at it to find it. We're not dismissing it, judging it, anything. We just think, what is this? When you feel the desire coming up, when you feel your desire to be attractive to somebody coming up, as it's happening, you experience it with your mind. We're not looking with the eyes, with the eye of the mind. You're trying to experience, what is this? You feel your chakras at work, your body energies at work, lining up, making a kind of magnetism and so on. Look into it, feel into it, on the spot, in that very moment. So what do we find? Patrul says, we find voidness as bliss. In other words, we find the bliss of voidness. As we try and find the desire, you can't find it. As you look for it, try and grab it. What's going on in me in that moment? As you try and grab it, it's like quicksilver. You can't, it runs away. You can't find anything, voidness. And somehow, because of the nature of voidness, it is so happy. When you find voidness, you find such happiness. And this is the point. It is unconditional happiness. It's not happiness because. It's not, this incense smells nice. Oh, I'm so happy. Or this food is so delicious. I'm so happy. That's conditioned happiness. Needs a cause. As we look into our mind, does it manifest desire? We can't find the desire when you really look. We find voidness and it's so happy. It's such a release. It's the truth, as opposed to the way you've been deluding yourself about your needs all these lifetimes. Such a happy liberation, because that's always there. Depends on nothing. So when we look, we are looking for worldly happiness through our five senses in this Padma family. And instead we find everlasting happiness through the mind, looking at the mind beyond the senses. So I think, because we're very behind schedule, even though we've only got 15 minutes left, we need to go on now to the north, which is always to our left. Now, the north is the karma family, and karma means action. So far, we've seen that ego is identified with values and ideas, or with possessions, or with your own persona, attractiveness, glow, magnetism. Here, you're defining yourself, you're identifying yourself by what you do. By what you do. And sort of the hope is that through the practice, which whenever it comes, emerges from these teachings, that you've got this geography starting to take place when you feel what we just had, the Padma desire to be attractive coming up. You think of it as this part of you behind. When you feel your possessiveness coming up of your objects, we feel that to this side, you place it there, because on there, beyond it, Buddha Ratna Sambhava. Here behind us, beyond it, Buddha Amitabha. There in front of us, beyond it, Buddha Akshobhya. So now to the north, when we find ourselves identifying ourselves by what we do, activity, profession, very often, but we've got that great phrase in English, it's what I do. It's what I do. Oh, you're such a kind man to your children. Yeah, that's what I do. That's what my life's all about. It's about doing this, doing it this way. Doing it this way, that's my joy. And we've learned to do things. Now, there's a lot to be said. There's too much to be said. There's so much information to put together with these directions. This course is just a teaser, and I hope you'll do that. But, with each of the directions, we've talked about a season or a time of the day. So the season for the north, the karma family, is the end of winter and the beginning of spring. What happens at the end of winter and the beginning of spring is the whole year to come of stuff is starting to germinate. What was in the ground, what was there as a potential, is starting to become little buds, is starting to grow up underground and become things. So we've had an endless past, so many lives. We've got so many possibilities of what we can become from today onwards. So many possible destinies. On a really dedicated Dharma path, we don't really want any of them. But what life will do, because of the whole way karma works, it will throw up circumstances, it will throw up people that will pull out these potentials. So it's like, in nature, when you've got seeds under the ground, weather will favor some seeds and it will destroy others. So this life's circumstances can lead us towards becoming this or becoming that, getting into this reality or that reality. So many potentials. So with doing, one aspect is not just that we identify with what we do, but we are busy. That kind of want to do more kind of person, and want to do many different things kind of person, and want to start new projects kind of person. Doing, the energy of doing, the energy of busyness. Now this is, we're making 4 seemingly clear-cut directions. It's not so clear-cut. When we go back to the Ratna family, and it's very much to do with the human realm, then busyness is very much to do with possessions. The teachings there are because we want so much stuff, then we're busy getting it. And busyness is also related to the South and the Ratna family. But busyness in the Ratna family is what you need to do to get what you want. It's a means to an end. When we come to the Karma family, the actual doing is what it's all about. You are busy. And we know in our modern world, some people, they kind of light up when they can say, oh, I'm busy doing this. It's a feeling of, I'm a worthy human being. I'm a busy one. They don't like lazy people in the Karma family. The people who are just laid back. When we come to the Buddha family, the last one, they couldn't care less about so many things. And so they're not the favorite people of the Karma family. And then people who do a lot and who are very active, they're very admired. So when we look at one aspect of this, and certainly my own teacher's advice to me and some advice I passed on in time to others, is if you really want to be a good Buddhist, reduce your activity. Not your Dharma activity, not your practice, but you probably find you're too involved with too many things. You've got this pull on your time, that pull on your time. I need to do that, I must do that, and then I've got this. We've got so many projects going one way or another. So my teacher's advice was, if it's not really necessary, if it's not really helping somebody else, just drop it. And if you start something new, only start something if you're sure you can finish it. And finish it well. Now, if we take this to not an absurd extreme, but to an extreme, what we find in the past, the Mahasiddhas, the really ones who achieved so much in Indian Buddhism, they did it through taking one thing and one thing alone through to its ultimate conclusion. One of them, Dombipa, he was a laundryman. Nobody knew he was a Mahasiddha. He wasn't a monk in a monastery. He was just in a village. Low caste laundry wallahs. They were really low caste, looked down upon. But this guy, Dombipa, was Dombipa. Anyway, whichever one it was just doing people's laundry. But being present every moment in everything that doing laundry is total achievement of Mahamudra, the greatest of all realizations. If we can take one thing through to the end, it says, If you really know one thing, you will know everything. And it could be that you could know so many things, but you wouldn't know the one essential point. So here in the north, the color green, the element wind, we are looking at ego. Our persona is primarily based on doing and activity. When Trungpa Rinpoche characterizes that kind of mentality, one thing he says is we become manic in a way. No, you don't do it like this. You must do it like that. There are ways in which things need to be done. And if you're doing it not that way, or somebody else is not doing it that way, it really threatens your doing. And that's one thing he says. He says, if you see your cup and you see a line, then you suddenly get quite paranoid. Oh, is the cup cracked? Or is it a hair on the cup? And you need to know. We get manic about details. And people who really get into this I do kind of mentality, then I do it well, and this is the right way to do it. And then they feel very threatened by those who do it just as well or even better. Jealousy. So jealousy is the poison for this northern direction to others. When we feel ourselves feeling jealous, and when somebody else is in the same area of doing as we are. Doing's more than just being creative, handicrafts and things like that. I mean, what I did, it's always been very funny for me. I'm known as a translator. Through the whole power of karma and circumstances, it so happened that I was asked with Katya, we translated into English 1, 2, 3 of the 5 most important texts in our lineage. We were asked to do that by the Karmapa Khenpo Sotim Jamso. And then Katya had to drop out, she wasn't well. So I became known as a translator. I've never felt a translator in my life. I did it because there was nobody else. We were picked because there was nobody else. I'm not a linguist, I never learned languages, but somehow I'm not too bad at English, and somehow the final result was good, was useful. So I was treated as a translator. I never felt like a translator, but I was in the world of translators. And in 1970 with Khenpo Sultim, we started a translator school where people like Jim Scott and others came, learned Tibetan. So I saw the world of translators. So the doing was translating. And in the world of translators, as in the world of academics, I don't know if you know academia and universities, but jealousy can be so strong when other people do what you do. They write papers on this, papers on that. This what you do, it makes you very, very vulnerable to what other people do, and if they do it better. So we get jealous. Instead of knowing like how beautiful it is to translate Tibetan into English, and then, oh, somebody does it better than me. That's wonderful. So happy, because people reading this, they get a better job than I did. Thank goodness they've come along, because I was holding the fort until the new generation of translators came along and could give their whole lives to it. Because I had other jobs, I was doing other things, doing. So when we feel jealousy, we associate it with this side, the left side, the north. The reason we were doing in samsara was to make our samsaric persona. This is who I am. I am the village blacksmith. I am Ken the translator. I am, what I do. It's to reinforce persona. It's in order to feel okay with yourself. Because you're at home, you're comfortable doing something well. So when we find that happening and break through it, then we come to Buddha Amoghasiddhi. And the Buddha's wisdom there is called the all-accomplishing wisdom. It's a wisdom that knows how to do anything, everything. And it's a wisdom that knows how to do things to benefit people, not to benefit our own cocoon of samsara, of personality, of ego, but then how can things be done? How can I act in the world in a way which will help people? So I need to stop there really, because the time's running out. I'd just like to share with you on a lighter note a story from the life of Tilopa, a very, very great lineage master, Tilopa. And music in India could be a spiritual discipline, and so the very famous musicians were also gurus, and still these days treated as such. So there was a veena player, or sitar veena, one of these stringed instruments, was really good. And so he was there with quite a lot of people around him, listening to him, very devoted, very transported by the music. So Tilopa comes along and he realizes that musician is ready for an awakening. So he starts whistling like this. And of course that's disturbing, and the musician is starting to get a bit upset. But the people listening to the musician are actually finding Tilopa's whistling absolutely mind-blowing. They're transported much more than they were by the stringed instrument. And there's something in this whistling which is like a call from a much more profound world. So the guru not only has this whistling interrupting his like this, but he sees his people, there's this sort of ragged yogi passing by, and they're totally fascinated. So he loses his temper. And what are you doing? This is my thing here. And so through the interaction, then Tilopa shows him that even though he's never trained in music, he didn't go to an Indian whistling academy and take a master's degree in whistling. Whatever he turns his mind to, he can do it beautifully. He has the all-accomplishing wisdom, knows everything, so therefore knows how to do everything. There's one point I've been meaning to say for a couple of weeks as well, which is if you do come across texts about the 5 Buddha families, it will talk about body types. And I don't think this is much use. So it says, for instance, when we had the Padma family, said they will be very, very well proportioned, sort of attractive in conventional human terms, usually quite shorter body and so on and so on. And those in the East are like this. But then you go to another tantric text and it will give you a different explanation. And whereas it says the ones in the East were tall, then it says they're not so tall, and so on. So it's not worth it. We're not looking for an ego catalogue where we can look at people and by their physical type. Then also it says these are fairer in the East and darker in the West and so on. But remember, all of this comes from India, where everybody's brown. So you're either lighter brown, fairer, or you're darker brown, like from the south, you're darker. But none of them. And so if you read the text, it says, well, these are fair-skinned. We start to think like Nordic people and blonde. They never existed there. So that's not much use. It's kind of helpful in a way because it gives us an idea that there are types. And when we look at there's one text you'll come across on the internet, 9 types of Dakini, for instance. It talks about body types, but it's not much use for these teachings. Sonam diye tamche zikbani, tomnene pedranam pamchene, je ganachi palap trukpayi, sipe sole, drowa drowarisho, janchub semcho rinpoche, ma jepanam jejochi, jepa nyampa me padam, kongne kongdu dalwarasho. Okay, so